morning.
Yeah.
We finally are going to do this, huh?
I can't believe it.
We've been kind of going back and forth for, I don't know, at least a month now. Because I was raving about Cocaine Cowboys because I was the last person in America to finally see that documentary.
That's right. You did bring that up. That's right.
And then Billy caught wind of that, and then he's like, thanks, man, but you should check out my new film, Dogfight. And that's how this came about.
Well, I can't say I didn't notice when you started talking about Cocaine Cowboys because all of a sudden the Twitterverse just, like, exploded around me. And I mean, I'm just, we have a small production company that we've had for the last 15 years in Miami Beach. And so whenever people discover the movie, it opens up a whole new kind of audience and world to us. And it means a lot, obviously, because, we're here hustling, for every eyeball and for every download and for every ticket. And it means a lot when someone goes out there and kind of co-signs or recommends it to people. And needless to say, you guys are aware you have a very devoted following, and so when you say it,
good to know, because sometimes I don't feel that.
No, they out there. They
I need
definitely
to feel that a little more. Were you, starting with Cocaine Cowboys? Were you a little worried that you're giving all these details out about the cocaine trade in Miami?
Well, Cocaine Cowboys was kind of, old news in a way by the time we got to it. We relied a lot on some incredible journalism that people who had done in Miami at the time in the 70s and 80s. And 20, 30 years later, it's not as dangerous anymore. I think people were a little taken aback by the hypothesis or the theory that, like, Miami was built on cocaine money. I think that was a little bold and might have put off some people. But then when they saw the movie and they said, yeah, that's basically how it went down. So
well, when you see the other Florida cities, there's no doubt in my mind that Miami was built on the cocaine money.
Yes.
It's just a little.
You're saying Tallahassee could use some cocaine to build up their infrastructure?
They could use a few bales coming ashore in Tallahassee.
A couple of bridges.
Tampa wouldn't mind a few drops.
Get the school system right.
Huh?
We are the only county in Florida without a Waffle House.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah, no, Miami is beautiful. I think Sherrod was asking earlier, is the cocaine still as prevalent in Miami?
Yeah.
Oh, no, there's no drugs in Miami anymore.
But they just hide it better.
Now. We got Flocka now.
Flocka?
Flocka's the new thing down here. People are smoking the synthetic drug. That's the problem, is that, like, they made all the natural drugs that come from plants and things illegal. So now people are going into the synthetic stuff and losing their minds.
I hear that Flocka's really got people like angel dust in it. Like,
stupid politicians like, oh, if we make it illegal, then, we'll be good. No, people are always going to look for a buzz.
Always looking for a high.
They're always
going to deal with
a
politicians.
A little something.
Yeah, and then it's whack-a-mole because the synthetic drugs, you just change the formula a little bit, and it suddenly skirts the law.
Right.
And they got to keep making you can't make every variation of every chemical, known to science illegal, because then everything's illegal. So,
Tylenol would be illegal.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're trying to figure it out now, and it's a learning curve.
It is. Yeah, that's just brutal.
Did you grow up in Miami during the Cocaine Cowboys days?
I did, yeah, and I was a kid, but you noticed that, like, everybody had a little bit of money. I mean, the economy wasn't so good, like, worldwide, but you just go through a working-class neighborhood, and everybody would have a toy, like a Porsche in the driveway or building a second story to their, like, modest single-family home. And it wasn't that they were in the drug business. It was just that it was, like, Reagan's trickle-down economics.
Right.
Like exemplified, because there was such an excess of cash in the community. It was a gold boom kind of town that it trickled down into anything you did for a living in Miami. You had a little extra cash coming to you. And I remember the lady who cuts my hair, actually, for the last, 15 years, she would tell me a story when she would cut some lady's hair back in the 80s. Afterwards, they'd come and they'd slip a little tip into her pocket afterwards, and then at the end of the day, she'd go turn her pockets inside out to count her money, and she'd find little baggies of white powder in her pocket that ladies would slip in as tips. And she said she was so naive. She went to her friend and said, "What is this?" And she said, "Honey, it's worth more than gold. So don't worry, it's a better tip than that."
Okay.
She sounded like she played some of the clubs I played.
Yeah. And just the amount of banks. That's what blew me away in your documentary. Just the amount of banks that popped up to take all this money that was coming in.
Oh, so they had to put it somewhere.
Right.
Because it suddenly became a liability.
Yeah.
Right.
Cash is really bulky. It's burdensome. And these guys had so much cash that it started to become a storage issue. And then banks, just like you saw in Scarface, it was all true.
Yeah.
Oliver Stone, when he wrote that script, he came down to Miami for like a year or two for, let's call it research. And
Billy.
and he got it right. He really did. I mean, banks were charging a VIG to deposit in cash because
Right.
they didn't even have a place to put it. And it's true what the medical examiner says in the movie, that if you examined any $20 bill, because they actually did this experiment, there's a great news article from 1985 where they took famous people, including Jeb Bush, and they said, take your money out of your gig, take your wallet out, we're going to examine a $20 bill. And they found traces of cocaine on every single bill. That's
So how many 20s would I need to get high off the dust? Do the math, Billy.
And I love how everyone just looked the other way with these banks popping up.
Yeah.
They were just ridiculous. Do you know the number of banks?
Oh, it was like dozens overnight, and they were international banks. Was the other? It was like Banco de Bogota and bank.
Right.
Every country had a bank along Brickell in Miami. But you have to remember, we don't have any indigenous industry in Florida. You know, as Carl Hyacin says, all we manufacture here is oranges and handguns. So, like, when we're a tourist economy, we sell the dream. You know, we sell sunshine.
Right.
When you come to Miami, there's a theory called the Ponzi State theory that an economist has about Florida. And what he says is that since like the mid-'50s, when we got DDT to combat mosquitoes and then central air conditioning, that's when people started coming to Florida in droves. And we had like 1,000 new arrivals on average every single day. So that's 365,000 new people into the state of Florida every year. But what the hell did they do? Once they got here, they would get into hospitality, real estate, construction, the hotel business, restaurant, basically all jobs that would just try to attract tomorrow's 1,000 newcomers.
Right.
And then in 2007, when we had the first ever net population decrease, the economy of Florida collapsed. And he said, well, hell, that's a Ponzi scheme. That's not a state economy, because that's what happened. We rely on the influx of new revenue and new suckers, you know.
Goddamn Amway. Ain't nothing about an Amway.
It's an Amway scheme.
Amway scheme, whole state.
Scam,
And
should say.
Medicare schemes and ID theft schemes and, I mean, you name it. Ponzi schemes were just the capital of it.
And then these guys, they were making so much money, they're just burying it in their backyards and stuff. I would worry that the rain would get to it, no matter what I did.
The raining guy was like,
Yeah, get to my money in the backyard.
Is it anymore?
on the
Like,
denomination.
somebody had to die and leave some like buried money.
You got to think there's buried money.
It has to be.
There's got to be a few.
I'd be so scared of sinkholes.
Oh, yeah.
Sinkholes.
Yeah.
Oh, and your money?
Yeah, they
Swallowing up your
disappear.
fortune.
That
yeah.
would be sad.
Really sad.
Billy, there's too much I want to talk to you about. So, I mean, I could talk about
All
Cocaine
day.
Cowboys all day, but I also want to just another 30 for 30 you did. I said this on the air, I think, last week. All the 30 for 30s I really like I see your name attached to them, like the Broke.
Thank you.
Yes.
Broke was amazing. That opened my eyes.
It was scary and amazing and intriguing.
Just the storyline, 2009 Sports Illustrated article, 60% of former NBA players are broke within 5 years of retirement. And then it goes on. By the time they have been retired for 2 years, 78% of former NFL players have gone bankrupt or are under financial stress.
You can get them to come to your kid's birthday party and make balloon animals. $75. Don't eyeball the kids, motherfucker.
Just with the NBA, we've let's just put it this way: we've had a few of the biggies come through our studio, Billy, and their shirt is a little off, a little old looking.
Oh.
Not the latest style, and I'm thinking this guy should have brand new $2,000 suits wherever he goes because of what he did in the NBA.
Well, if you think about it, if anybody's working at something and it's the only thing they've ever known how to do, it's the only thing they've ever been told that they're good at, it's the only thing that they've ever trained at, and then all of a sudden, by the time for NFL players, it's worse because the average career is like 3.3 years.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're, quote, retired before you're 30 years old. What are you going to do? I mean, it's only a matter of time at that point if you don't have some sort of skill set or revenue stream that you're going to go broke. Now, people always say, like, well, how the hell do you blow through $50 million or $20 million, or in some cases hundreds of millions of dollars, as you do, with like a Mike Tyson, for example. You're talking about $300 million, or Allen Iverson, or guys like that, where you got literally, you're talking about 9 figures. And the truth of the matter is, what we learned on making the movie was that it's really, really easy because. It's one thing if you're making $50,000 a year and you say, well, hell, if I had $50 million, I could make that last forever. But that's assuming you maintain the mentality of a guy making $50,000 while you're now making $50 million, and nobody does that. Everybody scales up. And you got people coming out of the woodwork with their hand out because you got a target on your back because you're in a high-profile job where everybody knows how much money you make, and it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure.
Eric's got a question for you.
Yeah, hey Billy, it's Eric Stengel. I know you from the intranet. Listen, I would imagine that it would be very easy to make a sequel to Broke. I mean, there's
Broker.
Yeah, Broker.
But I would think that once the movie came out, then everybody's like, oh, but what about this guy and this guy and this guy? Have you thought about doing that?
Yeah.
Well, first I got to say, Eric, I'm a huge, huge fan of your brother.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
And Justin is here as well.
I am going home. Thank you, Billy. I am done for today.
He's barely paying attention to your interview. I just got to tell you that.
And he leaves the studio.
Yeah, he actually left.
He really exited.
That was it.
He's the theatrical brother.
He played it
Do I have
out.
to answer the question then, or fuck it?
No,
Yeah,
I want you
answer
to
it.
answer the question. It was
Okay,
so good,
no.
and I want more.
Listen, it's a gift that keeps on giving in a horrible way,
Yeah.
and that's the tragedy of the situation is that, it's so avoidable because the new guys are just making the same mistakes as the previous generation of players, before them. And so it could be a series, and in fact, we originally pitched it. Here's a little behind the scenes. We pitched it as a series where we would profile players every week or a high net worth individual who went from rags to riches to rags, and we really wanted it to be about the people and not about the problem. ESPN had said, listen, it's tough for us to program series because of all the live shows and games and things that we have, so can we do it as a feature doc? And the doc became more about the problem than the people. It kind of becomes like a scared straight, step-by-step guide how to go broke. But we actually are revising it in the series, the profile model, and trying to get that off the ground because there's a lot of stories even outside of the world of sports of people who have sudden wealth events, whether it's a lottery winner or somebody in business who just doesn't have any experience with having money, suddenly gets it, and then
I came up.
Well, the lottery people. The lottery people don't know how to spend properly. I got to ask you about Allen Iverson. I don't think he was featured in Broke, but Showtime just did a documentary on Allen Iverson. It was okay. It was just okay.
Did they really?
I was kind of bummed they didn't go into his financial problems. How much money did he end up losing?
Oh, Iverson, I think, was over $100 million because he had, although he set himself up really well for the future. I don't even know if this was up to him or he just had a clever agent. But I believe Iverson has a deal with Reebok. I think that's who he had his deal with. Mm-hmm. And he can't touch that money till he's like 55 or something. He has it's like an escrow, and it's a lot of money too. I just hope he hasn't been borrowing against it. Yeah, because that would mean it would, the cupboard would be bare by the time he got there. But
like that commercial,
but
it's your money. Use it when you want to.
He went through $100 million. I don't even know how you do that.
I think it's well over that.
Well over that.
Oh yeah, the trust fund, the Reebok trust fund is $30 million. I just double checked that.
Okay, you read Tyson's book, right?
And I saw him live. Did you see his show?
Oh, his one-man show is amazing.
Oh, yeah,
it was amazing. Great. I couldn't believe it.
And we're lucky enough to have him as a frequent guest on the show, and he tells great stories. And in the book, it got so bad for him that they were at the supermarket and they couldn't afford the food they were buying.
Him and his wife?
Yes.
I believe it.
What about the tiger? Did the tiger have food? I want to make sure.
The tiger was food.
But it got so bad with Tyson, he's in a supermarket going, I don't know if we have enough money to pay for this stuff. Unbelievable.
Everybody gets there eventually. I mean, if you stop working, like the average trajectory of like a person in this country is, or used to be, that you would get out of college in your early 20s, you get a job at the entry level, and you work your way up in a business, or maybe you move to another business, and you're making more money, presumably, as you advance in your skills and in your company or in your industry. And in the meantime, you buy a house. maybe you make some good investments, some bad investments. Maybe you lose a house. Maybe you get married, you get divorced. But you learn how to kind of manage money as you go. And then by the time you reach your 50s, into your 60s before retirement, you're making the most money you're ever going to make in your life, right?
Yeah, perfect world.
But now put that upside down, because that's the path of an athlete. They're making the most money they're ever going to see in their lives in their 20s. Basically. And then it's over. And then what the hell do you do?
And we all live paycheck to paycheck in our 20s, 30s.
Yeah.
Part of our 40s.
You think it's always going to come?
Yeah.
Of course, if you're that age, I always say to people, like, oh, all this dumb. Listen, there's a conventional wisdom says that professional athletes spend their money on a lot of stupid shit. And spoiler alert, professional athletes spend their money on a lot of stupid shit. But, that's just the tip of the iceberg. And if you're in that age, you're going to find all sorts of exciting ways to squander that kind of money. I know I would have.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, there was Bernie Kosar. What was the deal with his father? Was his father his agent and took money from him?
His father was more of a management type of figure. He also, because he had an agent as well. He had a lot of guys, in his pocket. Bernie was essentially delivered, if you will, from the University of Miami to the Browns. And his dad was very influential, obviously, in kind of bringing Bernie home, because he was from a steel mill town in Ohio. And the mill had shut down. His dad had lost his job. And then Bernie signs this incredible multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract. And what he didn't know at the time, but found out much later, is that his dad got a secret side deal with the Browns for $1 million that was paid out over multiple years of Bernie's contract. And so that was basically money out of Bernie's pocket, because theoretically they would have paid that money to Bernie, but instead gave it to his dad. And Bernie was just happy that his dad wasn't asking him for money for those years. He didn't know why.
What was the secret deal, though? What was that based on?
The deal was just, I don't know how they structured it or what they called it, a management fee or something like that, or and they just paid him.
Wow. And how's he doing these days? Does he have some money?
Yeah, he's all right. I mean, he filed for bankruptcy. That didn't necessarily mean, there's that distinction between broke and bankrupt, and sometimes bankruptcy can give you more protection.
Right, it'll
having
save
too
the
much
house.
pride, than actually being broke.
You were talking about Tyson's Tiger. What was the dumbest athlete purchase that you know of?
Oh, man. There are so many.
Give me a couple more that maybe we don't know. We know
platinum toilet.
We know about Tyson and his Tigers. What else do we know? I'm trying to think of some of the other ones we know.
There was a football player who was proposed a deal. This is the other thing. They get offered the most idiotic investment opportunities too. Their friends and their cousins, and people come out of the woodwork with these business plans. So one of the deals a football player actually invested 6 figures in. It was for low-lying, flood areas. And it was a product that, if your furniture floated away, it had an airbag that would inflate. And the furniture would float downriver or down current, and then you could go and collect it later.
Wow.
I can't make that up, because it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
He invested in this company?
Yeah.
He put floaties on a couch?
Oh, my heart breaks. Do we know this guy?
What?
No.
Yeah, okay.
We weren't told. It was just a financial advisor relayed.
And why would you still want your furniture after they went down the river?
Yeah.
They got out the Gulf.
It's all waterlogged on the bottom.
That's the dumbest.
You got another one?
Well, it was Manny Ramirez who got there was what was it, $1 million signing bonus, and the team, the front office, was trying to balance their books, and they realized they had $1 million sitting in the bank that they shouldn't have had, and they call him up and they're like, "Hey, whatever happened to that $1 million check that we gave you?" And he's like, "Oh, I framed it." And they're like, "No, dude, that's an instrument. That's an instrument of money. You need to go to a bank." And Bart Scott talks about cashing his first ever NFL paycheck at a check cashing store.
Oh, I believe that.
Oh, yeah.
I believe that.
Is that the same story? $15 million? What's that one?
Different. This is Patrick Peterson from the Cardinals had a $15 million check that he was holding on to, is in one of Peter King's columns.
Why did he hold on to it?
Let's see.
How many times in his life going to get to see one?
Oh, yeah, he said he just hadn't gotten around to it.
Oh, man.
I want those kind of problems.
A lot of guys don't even know what to do with a check. They never had bank accounts before, and you've got guys who get their first paycheck. And first of all, they always have an association with getting a paycheck. Their parents would go, I got to go get my paycheck. And so they actually, instead of direct deposit or anything, would go into the front office and pick up their paycheck on payday. And they would look at it and they go, well, where the hell's all my money? And then they'd have to sit them down and introduce them to their new business partner, Uncle Sam, because they didn't know about taxes and how that money gets removed from their paycheck.
Yeah, they know about practice, not taxes.
Yes, exactly.
They don't take
They know
home
how to run a
economics.
40.
Yeah, we have to take regular fucking home economics, sign your check, and this is your social security number, dummy.
Yeah. Do we have a little more time with you, Billy?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I want to talk about Dogfight. That is the reason why you're calling.
So much good stuff.
Now I got to move on to the U, and the reason I got to move on to this is because I finally saw that last night, so that's fresh.
For those of you just joining our program, already in progress.
I apologize ahead of time, but I'm learning that I'm a huge fan of your work because every one of these documentaries that come out that I really like, your name is attached to it. So,
thank you.
The U is one of those 30 for 30s. You got to pick and choose because there's so many, and I'm like, the U. I don't give a fuck. And then, but because of cocaine, Cowboys and broke, and then getting to know you a little bit on Twitter, I'm like, you know what? I got to watch the U. I was blown away.
Good.
I loved it.
So good
about the Miami University football program.
Thank you. Listen, don't tell anybody. We're really just kind of making the same movie over and over.
It's a great damn movie.
Yeah.
Add cocaine to this one.
I was going to say, it's what we might not be one-hit wonders, but we might be one-trick ponies. I mean, let's just be real about this. It's sort of the same Miami milieu, but this one was kind of special because it was. It was going to be for a little bit more general audiences than Cocaine Cowboys would be. But in a weird way, it's kind of the same movie. All of these docs are kind of these twisted takes on the American dream.
Yes.
About how everybody's got to get it however they can, and channel their energies and their skills and their opportunities that they're either lucky or unlucky enough to get or not get. And that's kind of what the U is all about, too. I mean, they were the greatest show on earth because no one had ever seen anything like that in college football because it was like a gentleman's game, like Notre Dame and Nebraska and Oakland, these types of corn-fed big old white boys.
White boy chicken shit huckleberries. Go ahead, say it.
Billy, say it. When I was watching this last night, obviously the flashiness of Miami University back in that day. I was trying to remember, and I just couldn't come up with it in my stupid head. Were there any professional teams that had that same type of flash going on
Only
back then?
the Cowboys after the fact because all those Miami guys went to Dallas.
But any sport, was it happening in...
Oh, yeah. Hell yeah. In fact, it's my dream 30 for 30.
Yeah.
Oh.
The 86 Mets.
Oh,
yes!
Yes!
You want to talk about Cocaine Cowboy?
Oh.
Are you kidding? The bad boys of summer.
I still say they had the greatest celebration parade, World Series parade ever in New York. I remember cutting school, high-fiving cops as they let us jump the turnstile. Everybody was on cocaine on that team, it seemed like.
Sure. And it was the first time you just saw people all over Wall Street bumping ticker tape. It was crazy.
We had Doc Gooden in here. We've had Darryl Strawberry. Doc Gooden was the one that missed the parade, right?
Yeah.
Because he was in a crack house uptown?
Yeah.
It was him, not Daryl, right?
Oh, yeah. No.
I want to make sure I got that right.
Doc.
Yeah.
Yeah, Doc Gooden was, God, I love telling this story, and I don't even know if Billy will appreciate it, but Doc Gooden is spilling his guts out saying I'm missing the parade because I have this major addiction problem. I'm in a crack house, and, it was obviously a real bad problem. Oh. And we had David Lee Roth in here, and he thought that was, his time to go, yeah, man, it reminds me of the time when I was partying in San Jose. He's trying to relate to this horrendous drug story that Doc Gooden was telling.
Completely missing the point.
That's why I love David Lee Roth.
Yeah, David was sitting in that day, and me and Jim Norton's not here today. He's filming something, but our mouths are wide open like, what the fuck? This Doc Gooden story is crazy. We've kind of heard it over the years, but to actually hear it from the man himself.
Unbelievable.
And then that's when David just jumps in like, oh.
Go ahead and jump.
Right.
Well, Billy, I would think you could write your own ticket with these 30 for 30s. Why don't you do the 86 Mets story?
Yes.
We're trying, man. We're trying, and that to me is the U in New York and Major League Baseball, basically.
Yes.
You know, I just think that's the story. That to me, and they've now made, I think, they were supposed to make 30. They made about 1,000 of these 30 for 30s already, and that to me is like the missing link.
That's the one.
I think that's your last one. I don't think you do any others
That's
after
the
that.
big one. That's a big one right there.
Then you move on.
That's the drop mic.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
No doubt.
So the U, this story's fascinating because I had no idea that Miami University was a who gives a fuck university for a long time.
Yeah.
Lily White, no real football program, no one going to the fucking games, and then Schnellenberger. He comes on board. He was one of the assistants for Don Shula, and he turned the whole fucking program around. And he even said, "Look, I got this." And I think he said something like, "Within 4 or 5 years, I will have a national title here."
And
he had to be bold. You know, he was at the bottom. You know,
Yeah.
So like he had to say something to try to turn this thing around.
But what a brilliant idea! He goes, "I'm going to the ghettos and getting these guys."
Yeah.
That would never be in any of these football programs.
Yeah.
Because they might be a little unruly.
I'm just glad you didn't say niggerly. Thank you, Opie.
A bit unruly.
Opie, you come a long way, Opie.
and he recruits, from the hardcore ghettos of Miami.
And listen,
And he
Don
knew this was
Shula-
going to work.
You got to understand, Don Shula was also a great coach to make this work.
Why?
Like put it on the field and work. Like put it on the field and actually have this.
Oh yeah, you can't just have the idea. You got to know how to run a football team.
Exactly.
Yeah, I got what you're saying.
And run and understand people and understand young boys.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, he had a.
Now, how did Schnellenberger get that past, the president of the university? Like, we're going to bring in some unrulies. Sorry, that's right.
The president of the university wasn't paying attention. That's how he did it.
Right.
There's no question about that. This was not really done in careful consultation. And before Shula in college, Schnellenberger had coached with Bear Bryant, so he was trained by the
best,
the
yes,
most famous and the hardest. He was he was one of the Junction Boys, who trained in football like you train for the Navy SEALs. It was just crazy how he was trained. And so the heat of Miami and making kids practice without water, that was just second nature to him, and that's how he ran a football team. Honestly, the University of Miami is not and never has been a football school, capital F, capital S, in that way that you think about Alabama and even UF or Notre Dame,
Auburn for that matter.
Yeah, this all happened by accident. That's why they call it a microwave dynasty, because it just kind of blew up overnight, and all of a sudden they're winning 5 national championships in 19 years with 4 different head coaches. And Schnellenberger just said, he just said it was by design and by necessity because he had so little money. They were giving away tickets, with Whoppers at Burger King.
Yeah.
For the Hurricanes, and they were playing at the Orange Bowl, where the Dolphins would sell out on Sunday, but you'd have 1,000 people, on Saturday for a Hurricanes game. And he just said, "Listen, I can only send my assistant coaches so far and so wide. So let's stick to Florida, where we know there's all this ridiculous talent who can play in these conditions, who can play in this weather, who don't give a shit about the heat or the humidity. And they loved a high noon football game. Now they're all talking about we need the afternoon game so the crowds will show up, in the shade and blah, blah, blah. Back then they loved high noon because no one else could play in that weather for the Miami Hurricanes.
Let me clean it up a little bit. So they didn't really recruit black athletes before this?
Very few, and you have to remember the University of Miami was the South. We were the Jim Crow South.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
People don't realize that now because now we're like what Atlanta is to Georgia. We're kind of like this kind of shining metropolis.
Oasis, if you will.
Yeah, in the midst of a red state, which is really what Florida is, and Miami is. So they say in Florida, the further north you go, the further south
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So Miami. Black people couldn't be on Miami Beach after dark, and even then they had to have a tag that indicated that they worked on the beach somewhere.
Well, if it's after dark, how did you see us? I'm sorry, Billy. You continue.
It was fluorescent tags. They thought of everything.
There's your 30 for 30.
Hey, Billy, did you edit the U? Did you edit that movie?
I didn't edit it by myself. No, David Sipkin, our partner at Rack and Tour, he co-edited Cocaine Cowboys with me. He edited the U and Tanny of America and a bunch, and the U Part 2, of course, and Broke.
Because the thing that I like about your movies is that it makes you feel like you're having a heart attack. Like you have great music, really fast editing, and it's kind of like wall-to-wall sound. There's always either narration, dialogue, it's like wall-to-wall dialogue, no spaces, and you like. There are times I watch your movies and I have to pause it and just kind of be like, "Whoa, okay, let's just take a breather." And then get back into it. I'm not kidding. It's great.
And you grab people right away. The music you chose for the opening of the U, I was hooked.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was a lot of fun. I mean,
was that an original piece? Because I was trying to think if that was music from something else.
No, you're talking about the Uncle Luke song from the U?
The very beginning. I mean, it pops on, and then you got that nice beat. Really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was Luther Campbell of Two Live Crew. We did it original for the movie. For the sequel, we did Trick Daddy because it was another generation. Miami hip-hop royalty and guys with associations with the team, though, which was important. And,
I didn't know that was him to start the...
So it was Luke and Trick Daddy.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
And he did an original song for the movie, for the doc. Oh, that's great.
Absolutely.
The Luke connection. That made me laugh. Because he knew... there's so many questions, and we still got to get to Dogfight. But Luke knew these kids weren't being taken care of, so he started getting them a little money, making sure they could buy their own jersey. Like the university's making all this money off the kids' jerseys, and the kid himself can't afford his jersey. And then Luke started taking it upon himself to take care of the athletes.
I respect that.
That's amazing.
Formula for their babies, for their kids, because some of them had kids, and they're not allowed to get jobs in the off season in those days because of the completely archaic and insane NCAA rules. And Luke came from the same place that the kids had come from, and he knew the realities of the streets. He wanted to help them escape as he had through music, and he was a real role model for them. He wasn't a booster of the university, so he could get away with a little bit more, than like a donor of the university could in terms of all of the rules. But he was much more aware of the realities. Certainly, Edward Thaddeus Foote III, the Harvard-educated president of the university, was not familiar with where these kids had come from.
He don't know the struggle.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
They're pretty much starving right in front of his eyes, and he can't figure it out. Those NCAA rules drive me nuts. We talk about it a lot on this show.
For kids who don't get like stipends or paid.
Well, the amount of money these universities are bringing in, and I mean, what, less than 1% of the football players make it into the NFL, whatever the number is. So most of these guys are just... They're playing for free, and then in the end, really don't get anything out of it. And they would say, well, they're getting a really good education. But most of those kids aren't down there for the education.
And even if you are, after you get out of school, a lot of these kids can't get jobs after they get out of school anyway, if you play football or not.
Yeah.
So the job market is not there to back that story.
There's got to be a way to give them a little taste, but they don't want to give them the taste.
It's such a transparently unfair system, and we all know it.
We all know
it. Nothing seems to happen with it because of tradition, because, this is how we've always done it. And I think everybody knows. I really feel like the debate is over, meaning we all know now. It was one thing when the NCAA was a shadowy mystery organization in Indianapolis, but now you go online and you could read their bylaws. They're psychotic. They're just... I mean, you can't even treat an athlete like a normal student or human being. Let me give you an example. If you're an assistant, athletic director or coach or a staff member or even a student staff member at the athletic department, and you're driving home and you see a football player or a baseball player or a tennis player sitting on a bench waiting for a bus in the rain, you can't give them a ride home. You have to leave them sitting in the rain.
Why?
To catch the bus. Like just stupid shit like that, where you just can't even have normal human interactions with people, or else you might be violating a rule and facing probation and all this other nonsense while these guys are eating cake. Making billions and billions of dollars on the backs and bloods and bones and brains and concussions of these young kids, and everybody knows that's just not right.
Billy, to be fair, though, it is Florida, so if that faculty member picked that student up, they're going to fuck that student, ain't they?
There's a million stories like that. There was one where a coach paid for an athlete to go home to a funeral. and they got in fucking trouble for that.
That's like
the kids sitting around campus like, yeah, my mama died or whoever it was, and then the coach is like, holy fuck.
I don't understand why they don't treat it like an individual
got the kid to go home to a funeral, and then the NCAA, can't they do this by a case-by-case basis where you go, well, obviously this shit is illegal, but obviously you did it because there was no other way the kid could get home for an important funeral.
It makes you seem like you don't care about the student athletes at all, and they just there for one purpose. It's like treat them like human beings. It's like stop and suspend. They don't want to work. The NCAA don't want to work, so they say if you give them any money, we ain't not investigating. We just want to say you fucking did it, and you're in trouble.
That's it. Unbelievable.
Well, athletic directors in single athlete sports like wrestling, for example, you got if one student wins a national championship at wrestling, the athletic director gets a bonus check. But it's just one kid who accomplished it. The one kid can't get anything, but the athletic director
gets a bonus
for winning a national championship. I mean, who's ever heard of such a thing? Where somebody else gets the check or gets the benefit or bonus. You've got the homeless, remember the Baylor player who was just thrown out of college football because he was homeless and he accepted food and shelter from people.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's crazy.
And then these athletes have to sit back and watch their coach sign a $7 million a year contract with endorsements and then get extra money to do a radio show.
And it's video games with your likeness on it. You ain't making no money off of that either.
Oh, man, that's got to piss them off.
It makes me so angry.
One more question about the U, even though I could talk about that for 20 minutes. Schnellenberger. Now, whatever happened to him? So he leaves I know the backstory. He leaves the University of Miami after, I think, 5 seasons, and he's going to go into the USFL. Miami has a team, and then that's a bust. The team never gets off the ground. So now this guy's stuck with not a coaching job. Whatever happened to him?
Yeah, he wound up he was at Louisville for a time.
Oh, okay.
He was on the circuit for a minute, and then to end his career, he was at FAU, Florida Atlantic University in Boca. Now, these are programs that started popping up really after the success of the Hurricanes, where other tiny schools or public schools, private schools said, well, hell, we could start a football program too. So suddenly had
with the same formula.
Exactly, USF and UFC. I'm sorry, UCF, and then
UCF.
All of a sudden, everybody had a college football team, and he was hired to coach at FAU, which is this school, Florida Atlantic University in Boca, and he did what he always wanted to do. He raised the money and built an on-campus football stadium and retired shortly after it opened, which was always his dream at the University of Miami, was to fundraise and build an on-campus stadium. Now, they play at Joe Robbie at Sun Life, where the Dolphins play up practically in another county, and it's never been the same. It's just never been the same.
Gotcha. Okay.
I agree.
I'm glad he continued coaching because I wasn't sure of that.
How much money did he get from the USFL to go there that helped? I know he got a big check. He had to.
Well, not enough because, of course, the team never there was supposed to be an expansion team, that was going to come down, and it just never happened. And and he was going to have an ownership stake in the team. I think it seemed like a more lucrative deal, but
it never
ultimately
came.
It was not.
Oh, boy. He was regretting that. And then they got JJ in there.
Oh, yeah.
They're not going to tell JJ to beat it so we can bring back Schnellenberger. Schnellenberger. Well, this leads to Dogfight, Billy Corben. I appreciate you humoring us with the other projects you've done over the years. But
so good.
Dogfight was amazing. I just absolutely loved it.
Well, you guys blew it up this week. I got to tell you.
I got to see it. I got to go home and see it today.
Sherrod has not seen it.
All right, goodbye.
Can I ask one question? Can I ask one question? Just getting into it.
Yeah.
So, Billy, how did you discover this? How did you decide this is your next project?
Yeah.
Like how did you, find the right people? How did you realize when to start filming? You know what I mean?
I mean, just dumb luck mostly. I mean, it's funny. We live in Miami, and like I said, our office is in Miami Beach, and I think that's kind of an advantage to sort of be in the real world. I find through our dealings with Hollywood through the years, I think it was Hemingway who said that the best way to deal with Hollywood is to go up to the Nevada-California border, you throw your script over the line, they throw a satchel of money, and you go your separate ways, Right. I think that Hollywood's like a vacuum of ideas.
Right.
How else to explain in my lifetime, 2 Robin Hood movies, 2 volcano movies,
right.
2 asteroid hurtling towards the Earth movies, 2 Truman Capote movies. We just had 2 like White House Under Siege movies, last year or whatever.
Right.
Like,
Well, we got enemies as a country. We got enemies. That's why you got the 2 White House.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the same idea over and over again. And so when we get an idea to do something like Cocaine Cowboys, and we go out and try to sell it, and everybody turns us down, we just go, shit, it seems like a good idea to us. We're in Miami, and you go to Trick Daddy's house in Miramar, and he's got the Scarface poster on the blinds and everything. That you close the blinds, and all of a sudden there's a Scarface poster.
That's the blackest, niggeriest shit I ever heard in my life. What?
But how do you even find that guy? Like, how does this story end up on your radar? And then how do you find these guys?
Well, we have an alt weekly, like a Village Voice down here called the Miami New Times, and they did a story about kind of the next generation of the Kimbo Slice fighters, and everybody knew about Kimbo, obviously, and knew he wasn't having sort of the biggest success in the fighting professionally, but he was this amazing Horatio Alger story, who was discovered fighting in a backyard in West Perrine, Florida, which is 22 miles southwest of the South Beach that everybody thinks of when they think of Miami. And what we didn't know was there was this whole generation of young guys from all over the inner cities of South Florida that were now trying to emulate that business model, so to speak, and try to fight their way out to a better life for themselves and their families. And then more importantly, there was a character. There was one man, this Dada 5000, Dafir Harris, who had become like the Don King of the backyards. And his mother volunteered her home and her yard where Dada and his brother built a 12-by-12 ring. And they just started to throw these illegal, unsanctioned block party-like events where she had a chain-link fence around her property, and they put a blue tarp up. And as Dada says, when the neighborhood saw the blue tarp go up, they knew it was going down.
Yeah.
And you knew Saturday was fight day, and for $20 a head, $50 for VIP, which are the folding plastic chairs around the 12-by-12 ring. You could come in. Some people couldn't afford it, would climb the trees in the neighboring yards so they could look over the fence, the blue tarp, and watch the fights. And you just had all this industry pop up around it. You had the neighbors bring out the barbecue drum and the fryer, and I had some. It was like the culinary highlight of my month. It was just the best barbecue, the best fried fish, the best seafood rice. I mean, it was just delicious, and it was fun. There was people were smoking some weed, people were doing some gambling, but the only violence really in the neighborhood was in that 12-by-12 ring between consenting adults.
I do want to say, to fill in the blank, Dada was a bodyguard for Kimbo Slice. There's the connection, too. Right. Yeah. And a lot of people thought Dada 5000 was a real badass himself.
I mean, if you Kimbo Slice's bodyguard.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got an ass whooping written all over it.
And the ladies, the ghetto moms, that's what made the movie, I think. Them commenting about the fighters and the fights, and what the hell is he doing? He shouldn't be in that ring.
He's trying to say it was real color commentary.
It was color commentary.
Go home, man.
Those 4 women that you found, they could have a show. They were hilarious.
I have to see this movie
because you'd have the fights and stuff, and then they would go to the women. He filmed that separately, and then they would just comment.
Oh, so they did. Okay.
But they had a lot to say about each one of the fighters and the fight itself, and it was great.
What's interesting is that they were just fans. They weren't related to anybody or the fighters or anything. They were just fans who lived in the neighborhood and would show up for the fights, and then became followers of some of the fighters. Would become fans of some of the fighters, and you could hear them during the fights because their voices were so high pitched they would cut through the roar of the crowd. And I'm like, I got to find these ladies, and we gotta sit down and talk to them about the fights and the fighters because they were so into it.
Yeah. And I think it added an angle to it because if you had 4 guys talking about how great it was, then, we're all just cavemen. We're just watching brutality. But the fact that these ladies, they're cursing up a storm and they want blood, it really it added a new dimension to the movie.
And they cared. They really cared. There was like a sort of a maternal instinct or feeling that they would have. It's like, they would love to watch them fight, but then they really were kind of touched by the lives and the struggle of these men, too.
Yeah, and a few of them got out. Like you said, they were fighting for their lives and to get out of poverty. And, It's safe to say, a couple of them got out of that situation and ended up fighting professionally.
Okay, that's good.
Don't want to give too much away, but that was an interesting angle. The one thing I want to ask you, were you ever worried that one of these guys would die in the ring? Because, it was so brutal, these fights.
Oh, yeah. From the very first day, from the very first fight day that we covered, I should say, because we started shooting before that with some of the fighters and went to their homes and interviewed them in advance. But, on that first fight day, it was right after the Martin Luther King Day parade, which was half a block away from
I was there. It was nice parade that year.
I thought I saw you there.
That was me. No shirt, attitude.
oh, that guy.
You know what Dr. King wanted.
But how do you even how do you approach filming this? I mean, you just sort of let them run around and beat the snot out of each other and just sort of capture it. But how do you know? As they asked, are you scared someone's going to die? Are you scared it's going to go too far? Do you just come in and just sort of film everything and worry about it later, or
are you just hoping that no one dies? Or do
you want that?
Well, you have to understand this was happening whether we were there or not,
right?
And that was why we were there in the first place, because this was happening. This was the thing that was going on regularly. That Dada was promoting in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, it started to blow up, and then they started to crack down ultimately on it, and we wound up documenting what became the end of the organized backyard fighting scene in South Florida. But we were just there filming what was happening, and I think I kind of took it for granted for a minute that this had been going on so long, this subculture already, for almost a year, almost two at that point, that this was this was some sort of safe event. It's not. There's no doctors. There's no pre-fight examinations. You don't know about pre-existing conditions that the fighters may have. There's no ambulance to take them away or to stitch them up. These guys will sit around after a fight where they get completely torn up and brutalized. They'll wait for Dada to get through his card of 4, 5, 6 fights, and then they'll get paid and they'll go to the emergency room to get their faces put back together again. So I didn't really know what to expect, I think, going in. We were doing this on spec, on our own time and our own dime, so we just had read about it, saw some YouTube footage, saw that most of the fights had been captured with one camera on sticks in a corner, wide shot, so you could see both fighters in the ring. I came with 9 cameras, and just kind of wanted to shoot it aesthetically an action movie was kind of my point of view, just from the visual look of the piece. It was going to be like a 70s or 80s kind of action movie, like Rocky or The Karate Kid, just visually and in terms of the music. And then it was going to be about these guys' lives. So we start to shoot, and all of a sudden, you'll know the knockout I'm talking about. It's right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And
you're not going to leave that till the end.
No. And that was
got to hit him with something good.
That was fight day 1, and we would go on to shoot for another year and a half.
Wow.
Which I didn't know at the time, obviously, but I thought that maybe this would be our last day, because I thought that the police were going to come, as they did actually, and it was going to be all over, because this guy gets knocked out, and it was all hands on deck. We had 9 cameras, like I said, so I was shooting in a corner, and this guy goes back timber. I mean, it's like a 1-2 punch, classic, beautiful, and he gets hit on the chin. He goes back right on his heels, just straight back. His head lands outside of the ring, and it lands in the corner that I'm covering with my camera. So I'm his head is 2-3 feet away from me. So I get down on one knee and I start filming him.
You didn't say somebody got knocked the fuck out. You didn't do that.
And everybody's screaming. You can't hear a thing. The roar is just
I gotta see this
in that backyard, and I'm filming him. And I'm looking at his face. I'm kind of looking through the lens, and there's sweat in my eyes. And I'm looking up. I'm looking through the lens. It's like a movie. And then I'm looking up at him, and here's this guy that I know, whose mother I just met, and whose girlfriend I just met. And I realized in that moment he might never get up again.
So the girlfriend's single?
I look up at the fighter who hit him, and I'm like, this guy's going to jail because he just killed this guy. And Dada, who I know and I respect, and whose family I know and love, he's going to jail for promoting this. My footage is evidence in this homicide, and I like to describe it that the life of everybody in the backyard flashed before my eyes in that second. And then he got up. The kid got up.
Yeah.
And we thought he would never fight again, and that story is really Rather,
Well,
I won't
he's
give
not-
anything away, but that's really rather compelling.
Yeah, that's a great story.
I don't want to
Very
give it away
compelling,
either,
absolutely.
but they renamed the dude Can't Get Right. Because he just can't get right no more.
Now, the whole thing is illegal, which you make very obvious in the film. But the cops, they all understood that this was, when these fights were going down, crime was very low.
Was zero.
Pretty much zero. So they just they would show up, make sure Dada was got it under control, and then they would leave him alone
I
to
respect that.
do, this illegal activity. Because they knew in the end it was really helping the community.
It's adults, too. It's consenting adults.
In his mama's backyard.
That's the thing about this being illegal. It's more because it's unsanctioned. You can't make a dime in this country unless you pay the government a quarter.
Thank you.
So it's because you're not going to the state. And again, there's all sorts of regulations and health reasons. I get it, obviously, but it's really the idea that there's not some sort of a rich old white man making any money off of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Because fighting between two people ain't illegal. It's not illegal to fight each other if you say, hey, we want to fight.
Of course.
That's legal.
Yeah, it means two consenting adults. They're not, but it's just the fact that there's no official promoter. There's no, that's the
Right,
bottom
if you
line.
charge for it. If you charge for people to view it, that's when the tax man come in your pocket?
Exactly, and that's when the state, the Florida boxing commissioner becomes involved. And I'd like to say it's still like that situation it was back then, 'cause that was a few years ago, obviously, that we shot this. And community policing is not what it used to be in that area, unfortunately, of South Dade. But back then, it wasn't just the letter of the law. It was really about community policing, and it was really the cops saying, well, shit, the streets are quiet. There's tumbleweed. There's no drug transaction going on that corner where there's always a drug transaction. There's no gunplay. You're not hearing gunfire in the middle of the day. And where is everybody? They're in Dada's backyard. And there's no violence other than in that 12-by-12 ring. If they got a 911 call, they'd respond. But what are they going to do? They're going to fire flash grenades and tear gas over the fence of a private property where they theoretically don't know what's going on over there unless someone, again, makes an emergency call, in which case they would do their jobs. It just seemed to be good community policing to say, let's not escalate a situation that doesn't need to be escalated. We shut this shit down. We push everybody into the street. What then?
I concur.
Yeah. You had a real tough time distributing this film. It's such a unique idea. Backyard, fighting, the title Dog fight.
I have to watch this today.
Why the hell did you have a tough time distributing this thing?
Love it.
Yeah, listen, that's why it means the world, to me, that you guys, blew it up the way that you did, and it's just, we kind of took it for granted. You have a track record with the 30 for 30s, with Cocaine Cowboys, that, of tapping into these unique kind of subcultures and telling these Miami-centric stories and these twisted American dream stories that we'll get an opportunity to distribute our projects. And I hate to take it for granted, but it's kind of like, we're a part of this system where we produce docs and people see them, and for a while I thought that nobody was ever going to see it. And I got a little emotional last night actually looking at Twitter and just your listeners who just tuned in because you told them to, and I because it was a moment where I thought no one was ever going to see this movie, and as you mentioned, there was 3 or 4 guys who went pro right from the backyard, and then there was 2 guys that didn't live that long. And so
In
I
the
really
movie?
thought that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know he wanted to give that out.
Oh, I gotta see this.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who, but I mean. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah. There's some twists and there's some turns.
It's
Hey, if we
amazing.
blew up your movie, you think I could get on that stage when you get that Oscar for the best documentary? Maybe a little spot in the back? You don't even have to announce me. I just come up with the crowd. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That sounds good to me.
If I blew this shit up?
You already did. You already blew it up. I'm going to see it.
But to not get a distributor, it's not because this is a bad documentary. This is a really, really smart, good documentary with a great story. People trying to fight their way out of poverty.
Out of poverty, yeah. That's
And the
And I
action's unbelievable. So why did they get cold feet?
Yeah, so the complaints that we heard, and these are my 3 favorite, and these were the most popular too. People watched it and said, "Oh shit, I loved it. This is your best work. I won't distribute it." And they said it was, and we said, "Why not?" They said it was too urban,
I knew it was some race shit. I knew it was too
violent.
black for him.
too violent, and too real. So first of all, that's like, well, I mean, too urban. We know what that's code for.
You ain't gonna tell me, brother.
Yeah, the Jews.
The Jews came in and.
But as a dumb white boy, I love that because I get a glimpse of the other side. I don't.
That's what documentary is all about.
Yes,
you want to see a peek in somebody else's subculture, another culture that you don't experience.
And he
That's
said,
what America is all about.
Yes.
Too urban, too violent.
and they said it's too real. I mean, that's what you want from a documentary.
And it's reality age.
I went through
That's
like
so stupid.
the 7 stages of grief about this, and then I realized because this was special. Our other docs were like historical docs. Where we were talking earlier. You're interviewing people about shit that went down 20, 30 years ago. But this one, we went out there and we kind of lived that experience. And again, we did it on our own time. We self-financed it, and there was like this possibility that this was going to sit on our hard drives forever, and that was devastating for me, especially as the fighters started dying.
Oh.
And I was
Nobody
like,
distributed it?
I just was really passionate about getting it released because I finally got galvanized by the rejection because I realized someone telling you your documentary is too urban, too violent, and too real is like a woman saying you're too tall, too handsome, and too big for me.
Welcome to my life, Billy.
By the way, no woman has ever told me that. But I was like, well, this is a good thing. This is everything about American pop culture that people love all over the world is too urban. And then I realized it. The NFL is almost 70% black, the players.
Right.
The NBA is almost 80% black, the players. And then
both league, the owners are 100% white.
Exactly.
Whitey made a comeback in the NBA, though. Those Europeans came in for a little while.
Don't count them.
We
They're
got our
not
numbers
y'all.
up. We got our numbers up for a little
you
bit.
can't take credit for the European
Now we're getting
whites.
pushed out again.
I give you credit for that black dude on Atlanta Hawks from Germany. I give you that. With that dumb Shabba Ranks hair, he annoys me.
That's right. That's the bottom line is that you look at the ownership, you look at the commissioners, and you realize, urban culture is all good as long as it's being filtered through rich white dudes.
Yeah.
As long as Mark Emmert is the head of the NCAA going, it's all about academia.
Right.
As long as Roger Goodell is at the helm of the NFL going, no, this is a gentleman's game. You know what I mean? Like as long as you have David Stern telling guys how to dress off the court, that makes it okay.
Yeah.
Or that makes it safe for Doritos commercials.
Yeah.
Well,
between the periods.
Preach.
Well, you got to blame the bad boys of Detroit for that, though.
That's right. Thanks, Lambert.
It was all those guys where they put the dress code in after the Pistons.
Did they? No.
Yes.
They should have gave the Pistons a dress code on the court, those booty shorts they were running around. It's like you're skinning up your body.
So Dogfight, you had it on the website for $5 a download. That's kind of depressing. It is, though, in a way, when a distributor...
That's good.
Well, I mean, like for Louis C.K. and stuff,
That's great.
that works. Did this work for you?
You take out the middleman, you make all the money.
Yeah.
Listen, it worked in that again. We had a vig to pay to VHX who housed the movie for us and helped us do the e-commerce stuff. But otherwise, we got all the revenue. It wasn't going to a distributor or a third party.
That's better.
And well, listen, for the number of years, the 5 years we spent on it and the money, our own money that we spent on it, I can't say that it was profitable, that method, but it certainly was. If you went
That's
with
what I'm getting at.
Oh, yeah.
you wouldn't have seen any
right.
money.
Okay.
So that was the upside there, and it is this is an urban subculture completely unfiltered and uncensored. Dada 5000 he's the Roger Goodell. He's the he's the Jimmy Johnson. He's every level of bureaucracy in that, and it's just kind of pure and the way that he wants it, and that's what we show in the movie, and that's what we wanted. That's the experience we wanted to kind of provide without judgment. I'm seeing a lot of people talking a lot of shit about the fighters and their lifestyle and their life decisions, and not really reviewing the movie, but just talking shit about the world that these guys live in, which is beyond disrespectful and without empathy. But regardless, we wanted to get it out. I honestly didn't care if we gave it away for free, and I just wanted people to see the story.
That means Billy's rich.
Listen, how did Netflix get involved?
Yeah, because it's on Netflix for the people out there that don't know yet. Dogfight, D-A-W-G.
Yeah, D-A-W-G.
Yeah, Netflix came on board. That's great.
Yeah, and saved us. I mean, really, at least financially, and they saw it very late in the game. And they're like, why won't it? They ask the same questions you asked. Why won't anybody distribute this? You know,
I think this is going to be a hit. I think this is you got a hit on your hands with this one.
I think this is going to just explode.
It's a big film for you.
I think this is going to explode now.
I believe so.
So when you deal with Netflix, do you sign like a 1-year agreement? Like, how does that work? Or are you just there forever? And do you get a lot of attention? Do you make a lot of money with them?
Well, it's a term. You know, so they can offer you whatever they want. They could offer you a year, 2 years, 4. I think we're going to be on Netflix for about 4 years.
Wow.
And then they just pay you a fixed amount of money over that time. You know, it's a contract. You know, and it's like it's going to be up there for 4 years. They can renew it if if they're so inclined after that. I mean, if anybody watches it, you know, we've had movies that are up there forever, and then we've had movies that that come and go. Sometimes so that people aren't watching as much, and so I mean, we'll see how it goes with this one. I mean, hopefully, it'll be up there. It'll be up there forever.
But it's like it's a whole new industry and a whole new way. It's a new delivery system. If you get a certain amount of views, do they pay you more, or is it just a flat rate?
That's a great question. Yeah, there's no a la carte. There's none of that. In fact, Netflix doesn't even release any of their metrics, none of their numbers. You have no idea how you're performing. You have no idea.
Do they tell you? Can you ask?
No. They don't tell anybody. They don't release them.
I hate that shit. That's what they do to us here.
They don't tell you.
People go, how many people do you talk to every day? If you had to talk to some of the fans, they would say, 100 or 200. Then others say 1 million. I have no idea how many people we reach every day. And they will not give us that number.
Why is that?
I don't know. I guess they want to keep you down.
Yeah, they do.
And I got to tell you, I don't think David Fincher knows how many people watch House of Cards. Nobody gets told. This is their proprietary data.
That's fucking
weird. These guys
weird.
know more about us and what we watch and how we watch it and for how long we watch it than anybody has ever known before about how we consume our entertainment, which is fascinating. You know, we always try to get little morsels when we talk to them. Little hints about, but they don't. They play it close to the vest, man. I mean, they give you. All you know is that if they re-up your deal, there must be people watching.
I've learned how to talk in code with the guys here. Mm-hmm. You know, the big bosses. I'll go in and go, so how are the indicators? I call them indicators because I've tried the other way. Like, how many fucking people listen? And they won't tell me. But then if I use the word indicators, how are the indicators as far as the show goes? And then they'll go, oh, the indicators are really good. I'm like, all right.
Okay.
But I still want to know a number. I mean, as a creator, Billy, that's got to drive you nuts that you don't have a number of like, this is how many people are enjoying my work.
I don't mind. I make a living.
You don't mind, okay?
I do. I make a living doing something I love in 2015 in America. That's a blessing. That is a gift in and of itself. And I get all the love and the metrics that I need on Twitter. I mean, when people take the time to say, I'm watching this, I'm loving this, or even I'm hating this, as long as they're watching it, I mean, it's really a very powerful tool, you know, to be able to interact with people that way and see how they're feeling and see what they think of your content, and they're debating it and discussing it. That's what I do it for. So people will see it.
Note to self: the haters count as well. They're listening.
They're listening.
All right.
I'll block them, but I'll go like this.
I'm going to spin that shit now.
So when you make
still listening,
when you
just double your numbers, Opie.
When you make,
but then they would come back at me and go, "Yeah, but I'm listening for free."
They're psychos.
They're crazy. They're nuts.
If you make a movie now, is your goal just to get it seen anywhere? Do you want to be in a movie theater? Do you want to be on television? Like, everything is all mixed up now. What is your goal?
It's another great question. I mean, because when we were kids,
stop with the great questions. You've been here 4 days.
Doesn't matter, man. Hitting it out of the park every time.
Bill, you didn't give me one great question. How about one? That's an okay question.
I fed you stuff. There's one right there.
You fed me questions?
On your thing, your phone.
Thank you.
Well, when I was a kid, I mean, everybody wanted a studio deal. Now everybody wants a streaming deal.
Right.
You know? So, like, the world has changed, and I want to go where the audience is. You know, I just want people to, we don't do it so nobody will see it. We do it so that, I certainly, yes, I find it personally fulfilling and creatively gratifying and all that bullshit. But I want people to see the work, and for better or worse, whether they like it or not, I want people to see the work. And so we'll go, and I think with this audience, with the fight audience, with the, I think, predominantly male demographic that this appeals to, they're already on the web. They're already online. They're gamers. They're guys who don't pay $100 for Pacquiao, for the Pacquiao Mayweather fight. They're watching an illegal stream online.
I would have rather have watched some of these fights you filmed than Mayweather Pacquiao.
Agreed.
Dog Fight. It's a great documentary. It's on Netflix right now.
I didn't even know he did Limelight. Like, I didn't know you did that documentary as well. Did you?
What's Limelight?
About Peter Gason.
Peter Gason. Peter Gason who owned Limelight on.
Oh, right.
Now, is it true that he got stabbed in the eye as a kid, and that's why he had the eye patch with a fork?
He did. It's funny. There's a million stories about how that happened.
Right, that's the one I heard.
The way he tells it is the most racist Canadian story ever. He says it was a hockey accident.
It was a what?
A hockey accident.
Hockey.
Which is like, if you're Canadian, like you'd make fun, you'd be like, "What happened? A hockey accident? Eh? You know, like what?
Yeah.
Like what's that all about?" And it's true. That's what he says happened. It was a hockey accident.
Puck to the eye, probably.
I heard he got stabbed in the eye with a fork as a kid.
No, that's
Who?
Oh God, what's his name?
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm out on
quarterback.
Quarterback, Chicago Bears.
Man,
Jim McMahon.
Jim
Jim
McMahon.
McMahon.
Yeah,
right.
that's what it was.
There we go.
I am on fire today. We are going long.
Peter Gason was a creep, though, wasn't he? A creep? Do you interview him, or how did that work?
I do. Well, he wore that eye patch, you know, so he came. He looked like a James Bond villain. Or something.
He's such a creepy dude. I love him. He's such a creep.
But he was a smooth guy. He was just a weird guy, kind of aloof, you know. So like he wasn't a very warm kind of a guy, so people thought that he was creepy. But he was just an interesting guy. I mean, he was a small-town kid from Ontario who built the largest nightclub empire in the history of New York to this day.
No one
has owned
Palladium,
an club.
Limelight.
Is it worth watching?
It's great. Oh, definitely.
All right, I got to watch that now. I got another one from Billy to watch.
Definitely.
Billy, Dada 5000. How's he doing? A little update.
He's great. Good question.
All right, Opie.
No,
you earned it, Opie.
I've been around.
You earned it. It's a great question.
I've been around this too long. No, it wasn't.
Good for you, man.
It took you an hour, but you did it.
Yeah, you got one.
I wanted to give you props.
Yeah.
But no, Dada, you know, I said earlier, we kind of documented what wound up being the end of the organized backyard brawls, and so Dada was kind of at a choice because he had a threshold. He could either be forced back underground because the authorities were starting to crack down. His last fight last year, he got a cease and desist letter. Trucks rolled up and shut him down.
That sucks.
And so it was either get forced back underground or try to legitimize the operation. So
I got a third option, Billy. Cuba.
What is it?
Cuba.
Dada,
take the fights to Cuba, Dada.
Dude, that's basically.
They got a lot of angst too in Cuba to get out.
It's right there too. It's only a half hour to get there from Florida.
Yeah, that's the thing about Miami. We're closer to Cuba than the nearest state in the union.
Lucky you.
Well, they say the great thing about Miami is it's so close to the United States. But but Dada started this BYB Backyard Brawls Extreme, and he is doing a pay-per-view event in June, so next month. They're going on a cruise ship in international waters, and they're putting.
There you go.
This guy's a great promoter. Dada 5000.
It's a triangular cage, so it's 3 corners.
Wow.
It's tiny, and they're putting it on the top deck of a cruise ship to Bimini. And once they get into international waters, they're going to do their card, and it'll be a pay-per-view event next month.
That's unbelievable to me.
I got a great question coming in.
Okay.
For real.
Okay.
Did Kimbo Slice ever fight Dada 5000? Thank you, Lenny A 1031 on the Twitter.
No, not yet.
Not yet. Is it still a possibility?
Well, Kimbo's still fighting. Didn't he just join like Bellator or something recently? So Kimbo's still in the game, and that would be. I mean, we'll have to see kind of what happens with Dogfight and Dada's kind of profile, because I think Dada might be a little bit too low profile at the moment to get a Kimbo fight, but I think that would be badass.
That'd be badass.
Okay. It says your next project, Untitled Miami Project. Starting to think you really love Miami. Starting to think. I got an inkling.
Are you not allowed to leave the state? Is that? Do you not have a car?
Is there a child support issue?
Yeah, what do they got you? What do they got you for?
You know, the great thing, this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, that Los Angeles is where you go when you want to be somebody. New York is where you go when you are somebody, and Miami's where you go when you want to be somebody else.
Yeah.
So
who were you?
To tell stories. You know?
Who were you?
Who were you?
Could you give us a hint on that next project?
Yeah.
Yes, I can tell you that the Untitled Miami Project is actually a dramatic scripted 1-hour drama adaptation of Cocaine Cowboys.
Oh!
Wow.
Is that our exclusive? Did we get an exclusive?
We're writing the script right now, and it's at TNT, which they had a whole new management team come in. It's the guy who used to be at FX, who launched like all the brilliant shows that put FX on the map.
We have an exclusive.
He was at Fox when they brought Empire in. He likes to do a lot of cool, edgy shit, and he wants to do Cocaine Cowboys.
That's genius. That's real. That's obvious. How did that not happen already? It's genius.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Are we getting this for the first time, or did you tell 10 other people?
You are the ninth, people.
Yes.
You know what?
We're getting there.
Under 10 is an
Under
exclusive.
10 is good.
We're getting
Under
there.
10 is
Because
fine.
2 is his parents. His mother and daddy was
Yeah.
right. 1 and 2.
The FX guy is in that list.
Yes.
All right.
We're fine.
We're looking for an exclusive.
Pretty good.
If you want to throw any exclusives out there, we need something.
Who's going to be in that?
That's pretty cool.
I better have a pod, Billy, you son of a bitch. I can play the cocaine.
You gotta watch Dawg fight first, dude.
Oh, I'm watching that today.
Yeah, see?
I'm going to reenact it on the subway after I watch it.
Well, Billy, this was a pleasure. I'm starting a new show once a month. I'm going to do a documentary show on this channel. Would love to have you as a guest if you're ever in New York, just to talk about documentaries in general.
I love it, and you don't know. I mean, like docs don't necessarily get a lot of love, and
Right.
so everything that you do, just means a lot to documentary filmmakers everywhere.
How about we do this? Turn us on to a documentary that's not yours to end this. One documentary that maybe
one that you like
one that you like that maybe is kind of under the radar, like Dogfight sort of was until somebody talked about it.
Well, I'm trying to think because I'm a big fan, obviously, of documentaries, and I'm going to go out there and I want to do something a little bit wacky, maybe something, of course, that you haven't necessarily heard of.
Okay.
But there's a wonderful documentarian by the name of Nick Broomfield. He's a British guy. He did a couple docs about Eileen Wuornos. If you saw Monster with Charlize Theron.
Right, yes, sir.
He did 2 documentaries. He actually did a sequel to it where she was on death row in Florida, and he came and interviewed her while she was on death row. Those are amazing, and I highly recommend both of his Eileen Wuornos documentaries.
Right.
But he did one about Heidi Fleiss. Do you remember Heidi?
Oh, yeah.
of course.
He did it in where he went to her house and did it or something like that.
I know her from
And
Celebrity
she had the
Rehab.
birds. When she had the birds.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Heidi Fleiss, Hollywood Madam, and it's just kind of this creepy, sleazy, wonderful kind of piece of investigative journalism, and I love all of Nick's work. He's kind of the original Borat in a way, where he kind of he plays this this very 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 kind of like quiet, naive British guy, but in actuality, he wears his headphones and he carries his own boom microphone to interview people, so people think he's like a pushover,
right?
But
He's a little bit of a mess, yeah.
So he's kind of getting people to be more honest in ways that like Borat does. It's like, yeah, he's a fake character, but he's getting people to tell truths because they think that
he's a dum-dum.
they trust him,
right?
Because he's racist and he's
harmful,
and he's anti-Semitic too. So he's kind of cool that way. He's smooth, Nick. I love all of his shit, but Heidi Fleiss is a really wild, crazy documentary.
I know we have to go, but can I ask him one question?
Yes, Justin.
What documentary,
Make it a good one.
you know what? I don't want to, toot my own horn, but they've all been good. What documentary either wanted to make you direct documentaries or completely change your life? Where you're like, oh my God, the way this person came at this, or their vision is a way of thinking I never thought like.
Oh yeah, it would be Joel Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky.
Oh sure.
They did the Paradise Lost trilogy, which is now a trilogy. By the time I started getting into docs, I think the second movie, Paradise Lost 2, was just coming out.
Right.
And Bruce just died last year.
I didn't know that.
Wait,
yeah,
did you kill him, Billy?
Out of jealousy?
He
was like, I could never top this work, so I must destroy this man?
Well, he did some pretty extraordinary work, and they made a trilogy of documentaries.
Yeah.
It's a very rare thing as well. And they are responsible for getting 3 young men released from prison who might have been one of whom might have been wrongfully on death row. So, I mean, that's a pretty remarkable achievement, obviously. And so those guys and their style of verite investigative journalism has always been an inspiration.
When are you going to get someone off death row, bro?
Yeah. I'm sure Campbell Slice will be on death row soon enough.
Give him some time.
So do you go into documentaries hoping just to educate or show people, these other people that are wandering around the earth that you would have never met, or do you want to make a difference like those guys? Like, do you shoot high, or do you just sort of want to document and show what life is?
Just want to tell a story. I mean, I always say the job of a filmmaker. This is true for journalists and probably even you guys. You find a good story and then don't fuck it up.
Right.
Just tell it well, and hopefully it'll be entertaining and enlightening. And that's been the greatest things about sort of our career, basically, or our studio, Rack and Tour, is like we've had I think we've helped to turn a lot of younger people, a new demographic, onto documentaries that maybe didn't watch docs as much before, or thought of them as like boring talking head
boring
shit with educational movies and stuff like that, and they can be educational and enlightening, informative, but I think we also have an obligation as filmmakers, as storytellers, to make them entertaining, to make them watchable. So it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but I definitely think that you want to shine some light on a dark corner or on a subculture that people wouldn't otherwise have access to, and I think Dogfight is like the ultimate of that for us, because it really was happening, while we were filming it. You kind of experiencing it. You're experiencing it, the audience, in real time.
In real time.
And I think every inner city in America has an underground economy, whether it's the storehouse, the flea market. There's gambling. There's all sorts that has nothing to do with sort of the economy that we're all aware of. And I think that people do whatever they have to do. You wake up in the morning and you're like, how do I survive today? How do I feed my family? How do I provide for myself and my family? And like, people are just, listen, I'm a white guy in America. The struggle isn't real. Maybe the hustle is real, but the struggle, I was born on second base. Some people aren't born in the ballpark, let alone the bullpen with a chance to go at bat.
And you were rounding second, Billy. You were rounding second.
I'm the shortstop.
You are endlessly entertaining.
Yeah, Billy, you're great. We got to cut it off here, but we certainly would love you back on the show.
And definitely in studio, it'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be great. Next time you're in New York, look us up. Even if you don't have a project, we'd love you to just come in and hang.
Yeah.
What the hell? I'm going to come in and not promote anything? That's a waste of time.
That's right. That's not black of you. That's not black of you.
It's going so well.
I thought we were like actually getting along. Right. I didn't think it was one of those.
I want you to know. On my bucket list, it's true. I need a picture in front of your step and repeat. It's on my bucket list.
Oh,
you guys have so much fun every morning, and it's awesome. And I'd fucking love to hang out with you guys.
Well, after that last comment, that just won't happen.
I was telling Ron Bennington outside the studio yesterday, because Billy brought it up. We had Roger Daltrey in here from The Who.
Wow.
And we were humoring him because he didn't really want to talk music. He came in just to promote a charity, but we're like, all right, it's still Roger Daltrey. Right. It was a who gives a fuck interview. I'm not going to lie to you. And then I see the guy less than an hour later. I'm walking towards Central Park. He's coming my way with one of his guys, like a manager or something. Uh-huh. So I go, hey, Roger, what's up? And it looked like he wanted to run away, and I had to say, "I just interviewed you. I don't expect you. I don't expect you to remember me tomorrow or next week. But how about an hour later?
You didn't register. He didn't register in his mind.
How about one lousy hour later? You go, oh, you're the guy. You don't even need to know my name, but at least go, oh, you're the guy I just talked to an hour ago.
That's
I'm like,
ridiculous.
holy
He's
fuck.
seen a million white faces like you coming at him.
In the end, I get it. I do get it, but like, really, I just talked to you. Jimmy tells
loved it.
Sometimes, as soon as they leave the studio, like they have, they lose their minds are like swiped.
Yes.
Because then you'll see him in the bathroom, like, hey, no, I'm not trying to pick you up. I just talked to you 10 minutes ago. Just want to say that it went well.
Oh man, they don't remember you, Opie.
It's unbelievable.
Wide stance. I just honestly, all I can say is thank you to your listeners. I mean, you guys just you just blew up the movie this week, and it means it just means so much to me, and that people are watching it, and again, liking it, hating it, I don't care, but like I just have to say thank you.
Well,
fans.
you deserve it because Dogfight on Netflix is a great film by Billy Corben, and you can follow him on Twitter, Corben, Billy Corben.
I'll go roll one and then we'll watch it.
Yeah. Hey, Billy, thank you, man, for real.
Thank you very much.
Anytime. I'd love to come up and visit with you guys.
All right, cool.
Take care, brother.
All right.
Yeah, Billy.
Bye bye.